on the News Channel 5 network. This is OpenLine.
Hello everyone, welcome to OpenLine, talking about a case that got a lot of attention, national attention, the Cyntoia Brown case, talking about the latest on that case. She was of course granted clemency by Governor Haslam. She was 16 years old when she was convicted of murdering Johnny Allen, who was 43 years old. She was sent to life in prison, and there was a big push to grant clemency. The governor in his final days in office did grant clemency. So we're going to talk about that case, her case, and some of the bigger issues that case kind of brings to light. And happy to have with us two people who can talk about this and supported the clemency of Cyntoia Brown. First, Senator Brenda Gilmore. Senator, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you for being here. And Derri Smith with End Slavery Tennessee. Thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure.
You've been on before.
I have.
Appreciate having you back. I want to ask each of you, why did you support clemency in this case for Cyntoia Brown? And I'll start with you, Senator.
Okay, well, I did not know Cyntoia Brown personally, but everything about her just pulled at my heartstrings. I think the fact that she came from such horrid backgrounds. From all accounts, she was raped when she was young, she was homeless, forced into prostitution, and forced into child sex trafficking. And the fact that she was so young when this incident occurred, I don't know about you. I mean, I've never committed this kind of crime, but at 16, I don't think our minds are fully developed, and you can process sometimes good and bad decisions. And then when you look over her life, since she's been in prison, which is almost 15 years, she's done everything we want prisoners to do. So I felt like that she needed to be not necessarily rewarded, that may not be the right word, but she needed to be given a second chance.
Because of her young age, primarily?
Because of her young age when it occurred, and how she had rehabilitated herself since she's been in prison.
And I want to ask you, Derri Smith, what is End Slavery Tennessee, first of all, and why did you feel like this was important, this case?
Well, End Slavery Tennessee is the single point of entry designated for receiving all human trafficking survivors in Middle Tennessee. We're part of a larger alliance of 4 agencies so that human trafficking victims can find the same specialized comprehensive care in any county in the state. And I think there were 2 main reasons why I thought clemency was important. One, as the senator alluded to, is rehabilitation. 30-year-old Cyntoia is not at all the 16-year-old traumatized young woman who pulled that trigger. And she has proven that in every way possible. The way she used her time in prison, everybody I know uniformly who knew her since she was 16 or even before says the same thing. Totally different, rehabilitated. I think the other reason is because we have such changes in laws and in our understanding. The U.S. Supreme Court has said in several key decisions it's not reasonable to give any juvenile a life sentence, much less a traumatized, exploited young person. And so we understand what that does to a young brain, as again the senator alluded to, how it affects impulse control and emotional development and decision making. All of those things are important, and we apparently understand that better in Tennessee now than we did 10 years ago or 15 years ago.
There was some opposition, obviously. There was a lot of support that came from Hollywood stars all over the place. There was also some opposition, and I saw a friend of Johnny Allen who was disappointed that the sentence was commuted. She was granted clemency. And I think some law enforcement also expressed some concern about it. For those who have concern and say, wait a minute, here's someone who took the life of another person, a 43-year-old man, and she was given by a jury, you know, she was given in that system a life sentence, and it shouldn't be commuted. What do you all say to that?
Well, again, I would put forth that primarily the main reason why I thought clemency was justified is that she committed this when she was a child. And I read somewhere that you can determine the health of a community by how we treat our children. And almost on every single intersection in her life, the community and this state was not there for her. And I suspect that there are many, many Cyntoias locked in prison that have gotten caught. And I'm not condoning violence. I want to be clear about that. I don't think it was right that Mr. Allen ended up dead. But I do think we have to take into account that this was a grown man and that this was a child, 16 years old. Is still very, very, very young. And I want, while we're on the subject, I do want to thank Governor Haslam, because it took some courage, and it took a lot, I think, of a zeal to be merciful in this case. And again, I want to stress that she's been in prison almost 15 years. So a lot of crimes, even when a death is involved, people have been in prison for 15 years and have gotten out. But when you say somebody's got to serve at least 51 years, prison is not easy. It's not meant to be easy. And I don't know if there's no way we can look into the future, but I don't know if she would have survived in prison for that long.
She did a lot in prison. She got a college degree. She got her high school degree, then her college degree from Lipscomb, right?
Associate and working on her bachelor's. She'll
have some advantages that a lot of people who come out of prison won't have because of all the well, the support that she's going to have. She has a place immediately to live. There are people that apparently want to hire her. So it'll be a difficult transition, there's no doubt, but she'll have some of that support. And maybe that also played into the decision. But what do you want to say if there are those out there who are disappointed by the decision? What do you say?
Well, I think nobody is debating that a horrendous crime was committed. Least of all Cyntoia. She lives with incredible grief and remorse every day that she did this thing that she can't undo. She took a life. She intentionally told her lawyers not to ask for a pardon because she had murdered somebody. She takes that responsibility. We were simply asking for the reversing of an unreasonable sentence. This would be something that would normally be second-degree murder, and 15 years is a rather average sentence for second-degree murder. She will have served that to the day, I believe, when she is released.
How did this case come to your attention? Was it on your radar from day one? Was there a specific thing that brought it to your attention? How did it come to your attention?
Well, two ways. Actually, Cyntoia heard about us, and so she invited me to come and speak to her and to hear her capstone presentation. We did some exchange of letters. She shared her nonprofit idea with me and asked for feedback. But I also heard about it from survivors. We serve survivors of human trafficking, and they've been watching this case very carefully because so many of them have some sort of criminal charges that are related to their exploitation. And to them it was, you know, if somebody like Cyntoia, who had worked so hard at her rehabilitation, was not granted clemency, it would mean, what does it matter? No matter how hard I work, it's not going to make any difference. This exploitation and this crime is going to label me for the rest of my life. Instead, they have tremendous hope now.
Do you feel like the system, I guess the question would be, you're saying it's second-degree murder. This is what you would serve for second-degree murder. Why do you think she was convicted of first-degree murder? Did the system fail 15 years ago? And why? And you can both or either answer that.
Okay. Well, again, I think it was, again, a horrendous crime that was committed. And so, and there's no way that, you know, we can make that part of it look pretty. But, you know, she was a child, and we do have laws on the books sometimes. And those laws, I think, are much, much too harsh, that they should be reduced, that we can give a young person some time in prison. But I don't think she should have been tried as an adult. She should have been tried as a juvenile, and the sentence that was given to her was much, much too long and too harsh. And again, she's rehabilitated herself. I think that that's the justifying factor, that she's completely turned around, and we should honor her by giving her a second chance.
And what do you think?
Well, I think the system did not work. If you look at her original court transcripts, they are peppered with the phrase teen prostitute. Today, we know there is no such thing as a teen prostitute. If a minor is being used for commercial sex, for sex in exchange for anything of value, then she is a human trafficking victim. She had a trafficker by the name of Cutthroat. That probably tells you quite a bit, that street name right there, about what kind of exploiter he was. So I think that thankfully we've had a cultural mind shift. We don't think about child prostitutes and teen prostitutes, hopefully, anymore. Instead, we recognize victimization, and that even if a minor thinks that it was their idea to be raped multiple times a day and give the money to someone else who says they loved her, even if they do that, this is a child not capable of those decisions, and they're being exploited and manipulated.
And I don't know if you're aware of it or not, Ben, but this month is Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and so I was just looking at some statistics. This is a big business. I think it was something like $63 billion with a B. Money is made on trafficking young boys as well as young girls. And so we've got to do something to stop this. It's just unconscionable.
And I'm going to start taking calls in a moment, so hold on if you're on the line. And if you want to call in, there's the number 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. My question before I start taking calls and before we go to a quick break, does this shed light? I guess, are there more cases that you would identify that people should have their sentence commuted? And if so, how many? What does this kind of shed light on the bigger picture? And I'll ask you that first.
Okay. Well, honestly, I have no way of knowing the numbers. I don't know that anyone has gathered that kind of data, so I'm not going to make something up. But I will say that you know, we serve over 200 survivors every year, and so many of them have some sort of criminal charges, because traffickers typically will use their victims and protect themselves, make them do the criminal act so that the trafficker themselves are protected. So that means it's a very widespread thing, and we have 94 to 110 minors every month trafficked in the state of Tennessee. That's not counting those 18 and over. So we're talking about some significant numbers.
Are there laws that are different now? Could a 16-year-old be sentenced to life right now? What if this case came up right now, do you think?
There still are laws on the books that would give her the same kind of sentences. But I do think that there's the will in the General Assembly now to change it and to reduce those laws. Now, what it's going to look like, I don't know if it's going to be 25 years or 35 years or 30 years, but I think that there's going to be some action to reduce it from life sentences and from serving 51 years. What it is presently. And I wanted to say, I went to a rally for Cyntoia Saturday, and there were some survivors there, and I like that word better than victims. And it always interests me, even when I see homeless people, how people got there. And so I was asking one of the survivors how she ended up being trafficked. And she said, and she was an adult woman, and she says that she answered an employment situation. So I think that in most situations that they prey on vulnerable people, whether it's an adult woman or man, or whether it's a child, but it's even more sinful when it's a child.
16 in this case. All right, we're going to take a break. If you're on the line, hold on. I will get to your call. Mike, Bill, Linda, anybody else. And there's the number, 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. Take a break. Be back right after this.